Hey everyone, Fire here. Today I'm going to be going through the best strats for farming currency during Crucible's launch week. So this right here is my week 1 solo player Atlas / League mechanic tier list. It's ranked in terms of how much currency you're going to be able to make during the first week of the league. We won't be going through it all, however. I'm only going to be covering pretty much the S tier mechanics in this video. If you want a deeper explanation of why I've ranked all of these mechanics the way I have, you can look at the document I'm going to be linking with this video. It's going to contain all the Atlas trees for the S tier mechanics as well as the explanation. To absolutely no one's surprise, Legion is yet again going to be an S tier mechanic at the start of the league. Something to keep in mind is that last league TFT kept the 5-way service channel closed for the first few days of the league, and this led to all of the timeless emblems dropping very, very fast and hard in price. I think they bottomed out to around 13C for a Marikath emblem off the top of my head. It was really low, and a lot of people switched off of Legion when this happened. Something to keep in mind is that if this does happen again, you should keep farming. And in fact, not only should you keep farming, you should consider investing in buying up some of these really cheap sets. Now, the only reason this happens is because people end up in a situation where they're unable to sell their emblems for the amount of money they want to, so they pivot out of Legion. No one's running them, no one's buying them, so there's no demand for them. There's just a lot of supply. And when the channel comes online, people then buy up all these cheap emblem sets until there are none left, and then they just skyrocket in price. So I think there was something like a 300 to 400% increase in cost from the absolute bottom to the peak on the day where the channel opened up. And if you're invested in these, you're just going to make massive amounts of profit. Legion is a very solid strat. The only thing you have to watch for is that if you're not going to be selling your emblems, you are going to have a bit of trouble maybe sustaining the amount of scarabs you're buying and stuff along those lines. So try to use all the other loot that you're getting to fund this strategy if you want to farm Mage Blood. You should also be popping all of your high value incubators as soon as possible to make sure that you're getting the loot to sell. All right, so this tree is very, very, very straightforward. It just takes all of the map nodes. We're taking singular focus, of course, since we want to sustain Dunes. Dunes has the best layout for Legion, pretty much. We're blocking everything that's not Legion to try and generate an additional monolith into our maps. We're also taking pretty much all of the Legion nodes for the same reason and also to buff Legion loot. Now, something we're doing that is potentially a little unconventional. If you haven't watched all of my strats, we are running the Pact with Energy and Mining Byproducts node. Now, we're running this basically because you add a Rusted Sulfite Scarab onto your map, and you get to move faster, you deal more damage, you get extra max res for that map, you also get to generate some Azurite for free, which you can convert into Resonators, which are going to be worth a decent amount of money early in the league. It's just free profit in most cases. You will also notice we're running all the Essence nodes, and we're doing that because we're planning on running Essence on the map device, so that's kind of pretty self-explanatory, and then we're getting all of the red altar stuff. You've probably noticed I'm not using the Cryptic Gateways, and that's because the Cryptic Gateways cost points. Usually you can reallocate those points into pathing nodes a lot of the times when you're taking stuff near the middle of the tree anyway, and just gain the benefit of the small nodes that you're using to path between everything, rather than investing in gateways, which give you absolutely nothing but access. Just to go over that again, it's tier 16 Dunes, we're running Essence on the map device, we're using any tier of Legion Scarab, we're using Rusted Sulfite Scarabs and leaving the last 2 slots free. We're not running any compasses with this strat, and this strategy will be requiring 4 Void Stones and at least 8 favor slots. You may end up needing more favor slots to self-sustain Dunes, but I'm going to leave that up to you guys to figure out. Historically speaking, Deli Orbs have been a pretty good way for a solo player to farm a Mage Blood during the first week of the league. I think 3.21 is going to make that a little better potentially, and mainly because of the Abyss and the Breach changes. So the way these changes work are that the rewards of the Scarabs are being made stronger, but the amount of monsters they provide are being made weaker. This means that at the top end, Deli Orbs are going to have lower reward counts. There are going to be a lot of people who straight up aren't investing in Deli Orb strats next league because they don't know what to do. Harbinger's not on the map device, and the amount of monsters that they are relying on getting from Breach and Abyss has been brought down considerably. So there is going to be a lot less competition, a lot less demand for these Deli Orbs, and Their cost will probably be lower just for the fact that they're not generating as much loot as they used to before. But I think there are some still pretty good angles here in terms of what we can achieve as a solo player using these mechanics even after their rework. So we're going to change how we run them slightly and how we invest the points onto the tree. But I think this sort of setup still gives you a fairly good monster count, and it's also giving you meaningful loot. So for a start, just to get it out of the way, we are running pretty much all of the altar stuff and all of the Legion stuff. This is just like really good loot to have in every map, and if you can fit it in, we may as well. We're cutting Essence out of the tree mainly because it's in a part of the Atlas that we're already not going to, but Abyss is going to be on the Abyss is going to be available as a map device mod, so that is just a better alternative, saves us a lot of points on the tree. Now, this Abyss cluster got a very weird buff. Because Abyssal Depths spawn a lot less frequently, this means that these nodes become a lot more consistent. They are much more consistently going to give you the 3 pits or 4 pits if you invest all the way. That's a pretty good angle here, right? That I think a lot of people aren't seeing, and a lot of people are probably going to ignore Abyss as a result of. This means your Abyss Scarabs are probably going to be pretty cheap compared to what they otherwise could be. So this is all pretty good. We're also taking Harbinger as well. Harbinger is just great for padding out your monster kills. The loot isn't super good during week 1, but it's going to be okay. It's still going to give you some useful items that you're going to be able to use on your own maps, and everything else you can sell. I don't think there's any way to lose out by including Harbinger in these strategies. And other than that, the only thing I think really worth talking about here is that this tree is highly subject to change. I don't know how good Abyss and Breach is actually going to be. We've just been given descriptions. It's entirely possible that I start doing the strat and realize that we need to invest even more heavily into Breach or Abyss. Maybe we will take this full wheel. Maybe we won't. It's anyone's guess. There may be a situation where I tell you, okay, Breach and Abyss is now so bad that we're not going to be using it even for Deli Orb fodder anymore. Who knows? Probably not going to be the case, but if there are any changes to this strat, I'll let you know. I will be updating the spreadsheet, the document that I'm going to be providing for you guys. But otherwise, I think Deli Orbs are going to still be a pretty good way to farm your week 1 Mage Blood. You can still access the S-tier mechanics of Legion and Red Altars. You are giving up Essence, but all of the loot from the Deli Orb will sort of fill in that gap pretty damn easily. Just like with our last strat, we are running tier 16 endurance for this one as well, and this is not due to a lack of creativity. This is because 3 of the mechanics we're running, Abyss, Breach, and Legion, all prefer to spawn in nice open areas. When they spawn in closed-in areas or they're near walls, you just straight up lose a large part of their value. Abysses can despawn when they run into walls, Legion won't spawn half the mobs, and getting to the other side of a wall to finish off a breach can sometimes be a little more difficult than you'd like it to. The fragments going to be running for this strat are any tier of Legion Scarab. Now, it's more important to note this here than for the Legion strat itself, that because the cost of this is being offset by the Legion Orbs, and a lot of the value of the Legion is in the monster kills, not just the loot, it's kind of important to just get a monolith onto the map. It doesn't really have to be polished or gilded, what you're putting in there. We don't care that much about the Legion loot. We're mostly interested in the monsters. The Legion loot's extra, but don't go over investing for it if you don't need to. Now, we're going to be running polished Abyss Scarabs, because if you run gilded, you just straight up spending extra money and not getting extra monster kills anymore. The gilded Abyss Scarabs got nerfed. We're running Rusted Breach for pretty much the same reason, and any tier of Harbinger Scarab will do. That's up to you. If you find you're running your Deli Orbs and consistently almost getting to the next tier, you may want to upgrade the tier of Harbinger Scarab. That's like the sort of thing that you would change depending on that. As for compasses, you can do whatever you want with these pretty much. I've listed 6 here that are potentially good options, but it always depends on the economy. Like, sometimes you get large quantities of these compass modifiers hitting the economy pretty early, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes they come online a little later in bulk, and they're pretty damn expensive, far too expensive for you to turn a profit from, and that's because these compass modifiers are being used in other strategies that are deriving more of their profit from that mechanic, and therefore need that compass more than you do. So these are all optional. Just sort of have a look maybe on TFT and see if something's selling for cheap, or if someone has bulk of something. Other than that, like, you honestly can run no compasses if you don't want to, and a lot of the times I run Deli Orbs, I don't run compasses. This strat will require 4 Void Stones, and like with the last one, I heavily recommend at least 8 favor slots. It's not as mandatory this time, however, because we're running more mechanics in our Deli Orbs and we're basically spending more time in these maps. We are getting more, we're dropping more maps per map we run, basically. It's a lot easier to sustain Deli Orbs than it is to sustain just a Legion strat. So if you don't have all the favor slots unlocked, that's probably going to be okay, to be perfectly honest. The reason why we're going to be doing Alch Go strats instead of, say, Expedition and Blight is because I actually believe Alch Go during week 1 is going to be very competitive to the other A and B tier strats. You can take most of the S tier strats with this and just run them without any investment whatsoever. I've designed this tree to be particularly casual friendly in the sense that it is flexible, it doesn't run singular focus, you can run it on any map that you want. Obviously, any Legion related strategy is going to prefer Dunes, but this one's been designed so that you can just run whatever you want. You don't have to put anything in the map device. You don't have to pay any attention to anything you're doing. Just go again, and you'll make a ton of money compared to your friends. Without a doubt, this tree is way, way better than pretty much every C tier mechanic by a mile. If you just look at, where is it? If you look at everything here, any dedicated strategy relating to any of these during the first week of the league will be inferior to this tree here. So in this tree, pretty self-explanatory. We run all of the Legion stuff, all of the Essence stuff, all of the Red Altar stuff, and that's because those are ST mechanics. We can access them very easily. We have a fairly high chance of hitting Legion naturally off of this tree, and we're adding some Expedition stuff in here. The reason we're adding Expedition is because it is a pretty damn good mechanic, and if you can get it for free and you don't have to invest the Scarab or the map device mod, you're golden. It's a very high profit margin, right? I guess infinite profit since you're spending nothing. Yeah, it's pretty much the best thing to line up with these trees. And it is a slight increase in profit per hour over just not running any Expedition and running the next map faster. If you can get an Expedition for free using a setup like this, where you are invested into the Expedition stuff on the tree, then great. So this is probably going to be like the one I would recommend to most veteran players. We do have an alternative though. Now this tree may look a little different, but it's pretty similar to the one you just saw. We just took out all of the Expedition stuff and reallocated it to some Heist and Delirium mirror nodes, just because I think those are kind of lightweight things that are already close to the tree we want to take. They just allow us to run the same strategy with slightly lower profit per hour, but a lot more simplicity since we're cutting out Expedition. And the whole reason I'm giving you this version of the tree is because I get the comment all the time, I hate Expedition. I don't care how good Expedition is. I don't want to run it. And I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. So we got this instead. Heist is great because you just have to open a box. You don't have to interact with any monsters. You're not adding any extra time to your map when you open Heist caches. So that's pretty good. On the other hand, there are going to be people farming the smuggle caches from the map device mod. So the value of your loot is going to be slightly lower than the value of their loot, but that's kind of okay, I guess. We're still going to be running Essence as a map device mod, otherwise you'd have to reconfigure the tree a little more heavily if you wanted to switch to smuggler cache farming. Maybe I'll do another tree for that, but I want to keep it simple. I think just either of these two trees will be the best for you, and this is what you should run if you don't like Expedition. I hope this video goes a long way towards helping you guys achieve your week 1 currency goals in Crucible League, but if it doesn't, don't worry. I will be back pretty much every day blasting out strategy videos as fast as I can do them and test them. So I hopefully will see you guys soon.